If you appreciate the calm demeanor that I usually model in my videos, then here's fair warning, this video does not follow suit. And that is because this video is a plea to Doug Ford, the Ontario Premier, and Sylvia Jones, the Minister of Health, to be the first provincial government in my lifetime to actually do something about Ontario's crumbling healthcare system. See, I'm recording this from outside Grand River Hospital in Kitchener, while my daughter is currently having surgery. I haven't slept since Sunday morning. Neither has my child, because we've been fighting with the hospital this entire time. Because we couldn't even get a bed for her to lie down in and relieve her pain for more than 15 hours. I have laid out the first 13 hours of my hospital stay from hell in a post I wrote in desperate rage, quite literally, from the St. Mary's Hospital waiting room. When I wrote that post, we had already confirmed that she had appendicitis and that she needed emergency surgery, and yet we were being asked to sit for an indefinite period of time in the ER waiting room, sitting, pushing against one's appendix. See, we started our stay with an ER bed, but by 5 a.m. that morning, it was taken away from us because apparently somebody else needed it. So my daughter was forced to sit in the waiting room, putting more pressure on her appendix, which may very well have ruptured at any moment. And we do this for hours and hours just to get an ultrasound. And then we get the ultrasound and it's confirmed that she has appendicitis, but we continue to sit in that same chair for many hours more because there is no space to transfer her to the other hospital that can perform the surgery that she needs. So we have this sick child who's under immense pain, but rather than help her rest, she's left all night in a waiting room, sitting and causing more pain, and my requests for beds are denied. And my request to take her home to her own bed is also denied because she needs surgery. But they can't say whether surgery will come in minutes or hours or even that day. So we just keep sitting. And while she's sitting, she's on an IV line, and she periodically gets pain suppressants when we complain enough to get a scraping of attention from the hospital staff. She's also starving and thirsty, but she's not allowed to have any food because she might have surgery at any moment, or maybe never. And look, for those of us who live in Ontario, all I'm describing is the healthcare system that we know and hate. I just skimmed my experience here, but if you want the whole long story, then go find it in my post on Twitter. But it gets so much worse after I made that post, because nothing was changing for hours, and I seemed to be the only person in that building who was cognizant of the fact that sooner or later that appendix was gonna burst. So I made a big stink to the nurses. I insisted to speak to the charge nurse. It took well over an hour to speak with her, but when I finally did, she was incredibly apologetic, and we got our transfer to the second hospital. It's that one over there, which, no, we didn't get transferred by ambulance. I had to drive her myself. But whatever, I'm happy to just move forward with a solution for my child. Except what happened? We landed in the emergency room of the second hospital, and it was way busier than the room of the first. We entered this crazy packed room, and we showed the greeter our transfer papers and tell her that we've been sent directly from St. Mary's for emergency surgery. All of our papers are in order. We even have the surgeon's name written directly on the transfer package envelope. And nothing. It's like my child is a brand new attendee at the emergency room. We spent more than an hour with no glimpse of attention at all. We waited for more than an hour, and we didn't even get preliminary triage. So at that point, my daughter has been without IV for pain relief and antibiotics to stave off rupture, even though she still has her IV catheter from the first hospital hanging out of her arm. My daughter is getting desperate, and so am I. She hasn't drank anything for 13 hours, hasn't eaten anything for more than 20. Her pain is flaring up again, and as far as we know, she may have already had a rupture, but there's no one taking a look because they're not even aware she's in this waiting room. So what finally got my daughter some care? I went over to the poor elderly volunteer who greeted us when we came in, and I gave her a piece of my mind. And she retreated back to the nursing station behind closed doors where the head of triage was found, who came out and told not just me, but the entire ER that questions and concerns should be directed only to her and her staff, not the volunteers. At which point all I'm thinking is, great, I finally get to meet some staff at this hospital for the first time because I spent the last hour and 15 minutes talking to no one at all. So at this point the ER is silent, and I took this opportunity to speak up. I shared with the entire ER our experience of desperation, how we had been booked for emergency surgery and yet can't even seem to get basic medical necessities out of this hospital. And if I do say so myself, I think I did a pretty decent job of explaining it because I basically just recited my treat from earlier. The nurse immediately took us to her office and was incredibly apologetic. My daughter had pain medication in her within the minutes and was on the day surgery floor within 30 more. Finally, by about 2 p.m., she had the chance to rest. She met with her surgeon, and now, less than 3 hours later, she's finally receiving the healthcare that Canada is supposed to be famous for. Now look, this isn't the fault of St. Mary's Hospital, and it isn't the fault of Grand River either. This isn't the doctors or the nurses or the triage volunteers. They were all working so hard. They were all overworked. I know that this building is filled with good, quality, caring healthcare professionals, but they had no breath for my daughter's needs. To get my daughter actual care, I had to push and cross the lines of propriety that I am not proud to say I crossed. So to Premier Doug Ford and Health Minister Sylvia Jones, and to every politician in this country, we can fix this. We need to fix this. Ford didn't break this, but neither did the Liberals before him. I'm 33 years old, and this healthcare system has been crumbling my entire life. It's not a Liberal problem, and it's not a Conservative problem. It's just a problem, and we would all benefit so much if we just took healthcare seriously, valued our nurses, valued our doctors, and gave them the resources and the staffing levels that they need to succeed. So I beg of you, can we please find a solution? Real solutions. Not talk and jabber about how 10 years from now we're going to build a new hospital. Let's do it now. Let's solve it now, because these are real lives, these are real families, these are real children who are suffering, these are real elderly folk who are suffering, and we can do better for all of them. And quite honestly, we have no excuse not to be.